Good morning, the Talk Shop from Studio 255 in the Laramie Plains Civic Center, brought to you this morning by Wyoming Unite, the pop-up art show, Thursday, April 17th, in the University of Wyoming Art Museum, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. That production of Gerald Lovato, University of Wyoming Martial Arts Program, the American Studies, the Art Department, and 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. We have lots of good fun happening. You're also with this week, this Friday, Together We Can, April 11th, 2025, 6 p.m. at the Laramie Elks Lodge, 582 at 103 South 2nd Street. We'll have dinner, door prizes, silent auction, and keynote speaker, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West will be the special guest, 22-year retired Army veteran in Laramie, Wyoming. And if you're interested in supporting the Talk Shop with that endeavor, we would love to have that support. And it is a driving force for making 93.5 FM happen in Laramie, Wyoming. We appreciate your support. And Brett Glass this morning, we appreciate you with the City of Laramie Council Preview. What's ahead?
Good morning, and good morning to our listeners. The City Council this week will not be having a meeting. It will be having a work session. But the work sessions are important because this is where a lot of the deliberations go on that lead to council actions. And there are two items on the agenda for the work session this week. The first one, after the usual public comment period, is something that they're calling the budget overview. And their description of it is as follows. They say, each year, the city manager and administrative services director provide an overview of the applicable biennium budget to inform city council and the public on the budgeting preparation and publication process. The various city funds, financial highlights, and other information that is beneficial in developing a better understanding of city budgets is also presented. Now, normally, when the city publishes an agenda, they go on, if there's going to be a presentation, and they put the slides and other information up online. But unfortunately for this meeting, they haven't done that for the budget information. So the only way the public is going to find out what they're presenting, unfortunately, is to go or to watch on Zoom or to watch on YouTube. This is a communication issue. They really should be more forthcoming.
It happened last year. Do you remember around budget meetings? The data came in late.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Newman spoke about not receiving packet information until much later than Friday.
That's correct, and I don't know whether this is a lack of preparation on the staff's part, or I certainly hope it's not an effort to conceal anything. But the result of this is that the public doesn't know what's coming, and we don't have a chance to comment on it in advance. So we'll just have to watch along with council as the staff presents whatever they're going to present regarding budget, and it's important that they do the right thing this year, because the legislature has cut the taxes, the property taxes on single-family homes by 25% as a result of this latest legislative session.
Albany County doesn't have all single-family homes by code, do they? The zoning change eliminated single-family, I thought.
Well, sort of. We do have single-family homes. It's just that none of the zoning districts requires you to have a single-family home. And so the city has actually, by eliminating this restriction, encouraged people to build accessory dwelling units and to otherwise have non-single-family properties. Unfortunately, anyone who went ahead and took advantage of those incentives, which sounded good at first, misses out on the tax cut. And that's sort of a concern, where the government has kind of led some people astray.
They carved that out, so you're not a recipient.
Yeah, essentially the legislature, if you rent your basement, if you have a mother-in-law apartment, if you have a cottage, you don't get the 25% cut that the single-family homeowner gets. Renters are going to pay more in rent probably than they should, an unfair amount, because their landlords aren't going to be able to get the exemption and pass that on to them. So it's a mixed bag. But in any case, the practical effect in terms of the city budget is that the city's going to have less money to spend because its share of property taxes is going to be reduced. And so hopefully the city staff will present information about what they're going to do about that, because we can expect less income from the state. There is no backfill, as they call it. The state isn't taking money out of other things to supplement the amount that the cities get. And as a result, our city is going to have to be leaner on its budget. We'll have to watch to see how they're doing that.
When it comes to backfill, how is that treated? Quite broad in how it's applied, isn't it?
Well, the backfill is if the state cuts taxes that the cities get, normally you would think they would increase the direct funding that they give to the cities. I mean, in Wyoming, we have cities have limited sources of funds, and one of them is money provided directly by the state government. And so if we're no longer getting as much in property tax revenue, we hope that we would get some more directly from the state. But they did not do that. There were amendments offered. They were defeated. And as a result, our municipal budgets are going to have to be cut. Again, tomorrow night, we're going to see what they have in mind, and hopefully they will be planning for this and not caught short.
Need to get the word out as the Talk Shop has become aware that the Landmark Square property, formerly owned by John Guerin and I believe Rich Bolin, has been sold as of December 2024. Apparently, there was a property transaction that was completed, and just want to alert everybody. This is going to mean Planning Commission and City of Laramie, our retailers downtown that are currently being affected by a great deal of construction. Over 2 miles of construction on 3rd Street presently underway. As we all travel that corridor, you know very well that Highway 287 inside the city of Laramie is deep in cutouts, bulbs, all kinds of changes. One of the work sessions talked about some electrical jockeying that has to be done in order to do it. It was perhaps a 2-day delay. Perhaps it could be longer. We already know that this is going to span probably beyond Jubilee days, and that's serious for the livelihood of our retailers and community goers. If you try to navigate sidewalk closures as a matter of just getting from point A to point B, it's rather difficult. And businesses like the Windy City Pet Store, virtually their entries are totally obstructed, save one 36-inch wide pathway to get in. And the same for BMO, that financial institution. Or if you're looking at various times, the corners of Verizon store at 3rd and Garfield also completely obstructed as they were working on different phases of work. Parking along 3rd Street, nada, and won't be for quite some time. And in any event, parking, the segue here, is going to come under fire again. It's going to be under intense development. You can expect it. We had in May of 2024, we had the matter come up about Landmark Square. The lease currently valid till 2042, and yet I ask you, what happens if the city doesn't appreciate the importance of this particular space? 61 parking spaces. We're guaranteed by the lease more than 40 spaces in that lot presently. But what if the city were to put a value? What if the new landowner, be it Stencil Group or whomever, what if they were to propose a cash out of the lease for some sort of damages, and there would be a financial recuperation of that. But more importantly, the last proposed project that was proposed by Stencil Group had less than half of the parking spaces that would be needed for the occupancy of their proposed building. They would have needed something like 120 spaces, and they didn't. They didn't have that in there, and that means a great deal of things. There's quite a ripple effect in that type of consideration being made again. And if those kind of things are being accepted or meet all the checked boxes by the city planning department, city planning commission, zoning, and ultimately the city council, retail parking in historic downtown Laramie might see an immediate change inside that 20 years cushion that we think we have leased until 2042. It's not very likely that if you bought a property, you would not want to do something with that property sooner than 20 years from now. It's possible that you would deal with it, but that's a renewable lease. The city entered that as a renewable lease with no expectation that it wouldn't be renewable. But for all the dynamics, paying attention to your city council and the city operations is really critical, and it might be critical for a retailer that you know in historic downtown Laramie.
Yeah. Well, yes, Eric, that's true. And that kind of brings us to the second topic that's going to be discussed during the work session, which has to do with communication between council and the rest of the public. The description of that second portion of the work session is as follows. Several city council members have requested a work session to discuss additional publication options for notices and communications. Staff have prepared a short presentation to provide City Council current information related to the efforts being made toward public relations and required legals publications. Discussion will then be turned over to the Council to provide staff with their thoughts and ideas about additional publication options for notices and communications. Evaluations of requests made will be reviewed by the City Council and staff for feasibility and cost effectiveness. So what they're talking about is notices of what the city is doing, what they're doing about things like parking, what they, whether they're doing things like beginning negotiations with the Stencil Group, which now owns that lot, to possibly buy it permanently. About the budget, which, again, we've received very little information about. And so this is going to be an interesting discussion. Again, there's not much of a preview here, but I expect a discussion that actually happens to be interesting. Wyoming state law currently requires that the city put notices of meetings into a newspaper of general circulation. That's the words that they use. There are a lot of things they have to publish. They have to publish notices of zoning changes. They have to publish publish information about city council meetings. They have to publish the minutes of the city council meetings after the fact, once they're approved. And so there's already some communication there. But it's only in the newspaper, and it's hard to find if you don't subscribe to the paper. Unfortunately, our local paper is no longer local. It's owned by an out-of-state private equity firm. So a lot of people don't really have good access to that. So there's been a lot of talk about making the city government less opaque and providing more information on social media, having a blog which talks about what's coming before City Council, doing other things to communicate with the public. And I am looking forward to this because I really think there should be more communication. Too much goes under the radar. We have been, on Monday mornings, we've been trying to cover this so that the public is better informed, but as with this work session, even we don't know all of the details in advance. It'd be nice to know a little bit more about that budget presentation. It'd be nice to know a little bit more about what's being proposed in terms of communication. So
And about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago now, Vice Mayor Richardson, Micah Richardson, published maybe 2 or 3 weeks after we had begun doing our city council preview on Monday mornings. She started doing a highlight reel herself, and I have to say, I loved it. I absolutely appreciated that one of 9 city council members was doing that. Another effort that goes regular and consistent is that of Matt Lockhart. Councilman Lockhart readily forwarding and sharing a multitude of city announcements that go on. So I dearly appreciate seeing those. Another William Bowling it was actually in session, but one of the things that was quite striking and positive, I felt, by Councilman Bowling was that he mentioned the value of our mural projects. And some of those, many, are in alleyways. And he brought up the significance of having those alleyways supported by other decisions that happen in the city. Real engagement in thinking about and putting themselves in our shoes by doing these 3 efforts. I love it, and I appreciate, and I hope that they grow. I hope that transparency is not even a question going forward. But as the old adage goes, follow the money. Well, what do you not have a packet ready for? You can't follow the money as easily if it's not available, as it isn't or wasn't as of Friday last week for this Tuesday's work session.
Yes. Now, in my opinion, while the city is going to have to cut various expenses, there is one expense that I think they really should consider adding, and that is I think that there should be a communications person full-time for the city to communicate with the public, probably working directly for city council, like not working under the city manager. And the reason for this is that we want to be able to have direct communication with the people who make the decisions and set the policy for the city, rather than filtering those communications through the staff, whose interests may not be completely aligned with those of the public. Right now, unlike our state legislature, which has the Legislative Service Office, our city council members have no staff that's entirely their own. They don't have a legislative staff to help them draft ordinances or amendments. That's just done by the city attorney, who's also doing many other things. They don't really have anyone to consult about the legality of things or how well things mesh with state statute. Again, they consult the city attorney on that, and the results aren't always very clear. The ordinances aren't always written very well. Just in general, it would be nice if they had at least a part-time staff, maybe an intern if they wanted to save money. They could hire a part-time intern, but there should be more than they have, and that's one thing that I hope that people will bring up at the meeting tomorrow night. That there ought to be a person who is a specialist in communications doing the work here.
Brett Glass this morning with the City Council preview for tomorrow night's meeting. We appreciate Brett Glass in doing that. We'll be back in a moment with a second segment today, a surprise segment here on The Talk Shop. This segment brought to you by Pole Mountain Pharmacy, dedicated to the health and wellness of Southeast Wyoming from their location at 4th and Harney, along with Chano's Village, 513 Boswell Drive, and Range Community Insurance, along with the Bent and Rusty in historic downtown Laramie.
Anyway, that's how La